Okay, guys, so 4.3C lesson. Okay, this gets a little bit more involved than 4.3B did with the adding or subtracting. Okay, and then we also dealt with multiplying or dividing with positive coefficients on the variables. Okay, this gets a little bit trickier. All right, so consider the inequality 4 is greater than 1. Question, if you multiply both sides of the inequality by the same positive number, do you expect the inequality to remain true? Why or why not? I would. Yes, I would. Okay, yes. Since 4 is greater than 1, any multiple of 4 will always be larger than that same multiple of 1. Multiple, I lost the I in there. Multiple of 1. Okay, so I want you to think about like the number 2, for example. If you multiply a 4 by 2 and a 1 by 2, that would be 8 is greater than 2. It's still going to be a true statement. Okay, now on this guy, question, if you multiply both sides of an inequality by the same negative number, do you expect the inequality to remain true? Okay, now here's where it gets tricky. No, since 4 is greater than 1, any negative multiple of 4 will always be smaller than that same multiple of 1. Okay, and to look at both of those, yes and no, there's this chart here to kind of explore that idea. Okay, all right, so if we multiply 4 by 2, we would have 8. We multiply 1 by 2, we'd have 2. Is this a true or a false inequality? It is a true inequality. Okay, it says if false, blah. Okay, so it's not. Okay, this guy, 4 times 1 is 4 is greater than 1 times 1. 4 is greater than 1, that is also true. We don't have to fill that out. All right, so this guy, if we multiply by 0, 4 times 0 is 0. 0 is greater than 1 times 0. 0 is greater than 0. False. Okay, we would need to replace the is greater than with an equal sign. Okay, so it says what must be done for the inequality to be true. Okay, now let's look at this guy. If we multiply 4 by negative 1, we'd have negative 4 is greater than, if we multiply 1 by a negative 1, that'd be negative 1. Is negative 4 greater than negative 1? No. False. The inequality greater than should be less than. Okay, so if you flip the inequality, if you flip that inequality, you would make it a true statement. This guy, 4 times negative 2 would be negative 8 is greater than 1 times negative 2 would be negative 2. Is negative 8 greater than negative 2? No. Okay, the same, what must be done to make it true is the same as this one. The inequality greater than should be is less than. Okay, so number 2, under what conditions did the inequality become false? Okay, multiplying multiplying the inequality by 0 or a negative. Okay, or you could say multiplying by anything but a positive number. Multiplying by anything but a positive number makes the inequality untrue. Okay, so let's look at number 3. It says now solve and graph the inequality. Let me get my pink pen here. Okay, we need to divide by -2 to solve this thing. So that would be x, and this would be a -3. Now, last lesson, you would just bring this down the way that it is. Whoops, I need to scooch that up, don't I? Last lesson, you would just bring this is greater than or equal to down the way that it is. Okay, I want to look at that. Let me get another piece of paper out so I don't. So if we have x is greater than or equal to -3, and the number line would be -4, -3, -2, closed circle shaded this way. Okay, aren't you saying that 0 works? If we leave it like this, aren't we saying that everything over here works? So 0's over here. If we plug in a 0, -2 times 0, is 0 larger than or equal to 6? No. Okay, so when you divide by a negative number, okay, remember that's like multiplying by a negative number, right? The reciprocal. This inequality right here, this has to flip the other way. It has to flip the other way. So let me demonstrate that. Closed circle here, shaded this way. Okay, we're saying that anything here works. So let's plug in like a -5. If we plug in a -5, wouldn't that be 10 is greater than or equal to 6? That works. Okay, nothing here works, but everything here works. So you have to flip the inequality symbol for the reasons explored up here. All right, let's look at this guy. Solve and graph this. So if x is being divided by -3, we need to multiply by -3 on both sides. Okay, when you multiply or divide by a negative, this thing must flip to be the opposite. Okay, so I need a 26, 27, 28, closed circle, shaded this way. Okay, let's think about this. 30's down here somewhere. 30 shouldn't work. It's not shaded. Let's tuck it in. If we do 30 divided by -3, isn't that -10? Is -10 greater than or equal to -9? No, it's not. Okay. All right. This is what I need you to remember. Number 5, finish the sentence. When you multiply or divide both sides of an inequality by the same negative number, you must flip the inequality symbol, sign. So something like that becomes something like that, for example. Okay, so a is less than becomes a is greater than. Okay, all right, now that you understand the behind the scenes about that, it's a rule. It's a rule, okay? So you have to ask yourself, am I multiplying or dividing by a negative? If so, I need to flip the inequality over. Okay, so this guy, okay, notice that number I just wrote down, divide by a negative something. I better flip that. So that's going to be t is less than or equal to 5. 4, 5, 6, closed circle, shaded this way. We'll come back and check a couple at the end like we did on the last lesson. Okay, this guy, Do you realize we have to multiply by 3 and then divide by 2? Okay, well, can't we multiply by 3 halves? Okay, if I multiply 2/3 by 3 halves, I get 1 y. Okay, is that pink number negative? No, so this stays the same. Doesn't matter that that's a -4. It's all about that pink number. Okay, so let's think about, it's going to be a negative something. This is 4/1 times 3/2. That's what we're doing right here. That's a 4/1. I put the negative there already. Negative times a positive is a negative. Okay, 2 reduces out like that. Do you see that that answer is 6? Okay, so we've got a number to the left, the number that it is, a number to the right, closed circle, shaded right. All right, this guy. 1/2 of p, to make that a whole p, you would multiply it by 2/1, or just 2. So that pink number is a positive, so that inequality stays the way it is. P is less than -8. -9, -8, -7, open circle, shaded, less than. Alrighty, this guy's way more involved. We're going to multiply both sides by a -4. Now, when you multiply by a -4, that thing needs to flip over. Okay, so this is going to be, the -4s would cancel. You're left with y minus 3, and this would be -20. Okay, now we have one more step in solving this, add 3. Remember, we didn't do anything with flipping inequalities with adding or subtracting from the last lesson. It's all about that multiplying or dividing. So y is greater than or equal to -17. So -18, -17, -16, solid circle, shaded right. All right. On to the next page, and these get a little bit more involved. All right, this guy. We're adding 2 to both sides. Adding 2 on this side would leave -3. I'm going to leave that the way that it is. We didn't do anything with multiplying or dividing by a negative. So that is greater than or equal to stays as greater than or equal to. Please don't lose this negative on the 3n. Okay, here's where it gets tricky. 2 things, don't do them all at once. We need to divide by a negative, which means this thing flips. This would be 1n, this would be 1. And we talked about this last lesson, this is written backwards. Please make the n here and the 1 here. Big alligator mouth by the n. That's the answer. 0, 1, and 2 on your number line. Closed circle, shaded right. Please do not do these 2 steps all at once. You're gonna forget something. You'll lose something in both steps. So make sure you do them separate. All right, let's do this guy. So we're gonna multiply this guy by, we can multiply by 2. But some of you might see you need to multiply by a -2. We can handle that later. Let's multiply by 2. I think that's clearer to see, and I think that's how most kids would start this problem. This would be -36. This stays the way it is because we've got a +2 that's in pink being multiplied. And then these 2's would cancel, leaving a -x. Okay, well, we can't have -x. We have to have a +x. So what if I multiplied this whole thing or divided this whole thing by a -1? This would become positive. This must flip. and this would become positive. Okay, now, please don't graph it because I know most of you are going to shade to the left. Okay, please write your X on the left and your 36 on the right. So 35, 36, 37, closed circle, shaded right. Okay. If you understand that you can divide by 3 here to start, do it. It's much simpler and quicker. But I think most kids would distribute the 3. So we're going to subtract the 15. 3x is greater than or equal to, that comes out to be, what was it? I didn't do it that way when I did it. 50, negative 54. Okay, I'm going to divide by 3 or multiply by 1/3. Okay, that pink 3, dividing by a positive, this stays the way that it is. Your answer is negative 18. So you need a negative 19, negative 18, a negative 17, solid circle, shaded right. Okay, one last one, this guy. If you realize you can divide by 6 right now, go for it. Way easier. But I really think at this stage, you guys, most of you would do 6y plus 6 is greater than or equal to 18. Subtract 6 from both sides. 6y is greater than or equal to 12. You're not flipping this because you're subtracting 6. You only flip the inequality when you multiply or divide by a negative. Okay, you're going to take a 6th or divide by 6 and get y is greater than or equal to 2. 1, 2, 3. Solid circle on 2, shaded this way. Okay, let's check a couple. Let's look at this guy since we're right here. Shouldn't 3 work? Let's see if it does. If I put a 3 in here, I'd have 6 times 4. That's 24. 24 is bigger than or equal to 18. 0 should not work. It's not shaded over here. 0 should not work. If I put a 0 in here, that would be 6 times 1. 6 is not bigger than or equal to 18. Okay, let's check. Let's check one of them that had the, let's check this guy. Okay, this not only had the flip, it had another flip. Okay, this is saying 2 should work. Let's make sure it does. If we put a 2 in here, this would be negative 5. Let me write that down because that one's more involved. Negative 5 is greater than or equal to negative 2 minus 3. If we put a 2 in place of n, so I replace that n with a number that should work. This is a solution because it's shaded here. This would be negative 5 is greater than or equal to, make sure you do this multiplication first before you do this subtraction. Negative 2 minus 6. So this, think of this like this. Negative 5 is greater than or equal to negative 8. Yes, it is. Okay, we just checked that one. And let's go to an easier one on the page before, and then we'll wrap this lesson up. Let's take this guy. All right. This is saying 6 doesn't work. Remember, if we would have left it, we would have shaded this way. Let's test 6. If we put a 6 in there, we'd have negative 30 is greater than or equal to negative 25. No, it's not. Okay, but if we put like a, wouldn't 0 be down here somewhere? If we put a 0 in here, negative 5 times 0, 0 is bigger than or equal to negative 25. Zero is bigger than any negative number, isn't it? Okay. All right. Thanks, guys.